NFL writer Jeremy Fowler with us on SportsCenter AM. J-Bone, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Says he feels like he's in a good spot with a high ankle sprain. The same, though, maybe cannot be said about two of his key receivers. What's the latest there?
Yeah, let's start with Juju Smith-Schuster. So he had some swelling in his knee coming off of last week's game. They rested him all week. I'm told they are optimistic that he can play. They felt coming out of the game that it was something he could manage over the next 2 weeks. And so that's proved true so far. They're going to try to get him back on the practice field at some point next week. But right now it's all about rest. He's feeling pretty good. He's been working on that treatment, and so he's in a good place. They should have their starting wide receiver. Kadarius Toney, a little bit more up in the air, but they still feel good about that. I was told from a team source that both Toney and Smith-Schuster they do largely expect to have. The issue is McCole Hardman, who has a pelvis issue that he's been dealing with for a lot of the year, been out for probably half the season. He's not as surefire to play, but those two should be good.
It's tough to try to forecast this game. I know we still have 8 days, but you don't know right now who Patrick Mahomes is going to be throwing to. What about who could protect the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts? There's a big injury to a key piece of the offensive line. What more can you tell us about this adductor to Lane Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, Lane Johnson is a warrior. He's been dealing with this torn groin area issue for really the last month and a half. I was told he needed the bye week just to be able to play in the playoffs. Been hurting, dealing with discomfort, has been awesome on the field the last 2 weeks. And so their procedure is pretty simple. They rest him up, and then when they get to practice week, leading up to the Super Bowl, he'll probably be limited, leading up to hopefully a full practice on that Friday before the game. That's been the procedure with him so far. It's worked. They're just trying to get him on the field, but he should be good. Then Jason Kelce, this one's interesting because he's year to year, due to his age, he's been playing forever, 35 years old, playing at an all-pro level still, and so there are questions about retirement. It's really a year-to-year proposition. I talked to a source close to Kelce who said he goes through the same procedure pretty much every year. So comes out of the season, you have nicks and bruises, you're not feeling so great about playing again, you give it some time, come March, okay, well, let's see, maybe I can do this again, and they come to a one-year deal at a really high number. So it could be the process again. He's playing so well that he could just keep trucking here.
And the pieces are in place.
Relationship aspect of Tom, he always wanted to get to know his teammates on a different level, on a higher level. Just seeing what makes guys tick. Getting to know their families and all those things that because those things manifest itself on the field. Because any athlete would tell you, the best teams they played on is man, when you just had that trust in the individual that you play with, man, it takes it to another level. And so Tom just had the desire to just learn more about his teammates on a whole different level. And when we got on the field, man, it's like if Tom is playing at this level, we want to raise our game to that level as well. And those things, you don't flip a switch and have that stuff happen. Those things happen well before you see it on the field, in the off season and kind of doing your own thing.
Wood, what do you say to those people that say that TB12 was not the best quarterback during his era? He just compiled statistics and won some Super Bowls, but guys like Peyton Manning was a better quarterback. What do you say?
Regular season quarterback.
Well, listen, I will say this. I give Peyton his due as far as regular season. I mean, Peyton was the real deal.
Was he the best regular season quarterback you ever played against?
Yeah, I would probably say yes. Only because Peyton was his own offensive coordinator. He would tell you that Peyton Manning was out there running the whole show, directing everything out there. That's hard to do. A lot of guys live within a system. Peyton Manning was the system. He was everything. He was the OC. He was directing traffic, doing all those things, processing, defenses, pre-snap, post-snap, all those type of things. And he did it at a level that I don't think we've ever seen before.
And by the way, when we ask, was Brady a compiler versus Peyton, then we show a graphic of their careers and their NFL ranks in all these categories. We're showing compiling graphic. And you might say, well, that's a measure of greatness over a career. Sure. But what we really mean when we say greatest regular season quarterback is when they were great, right, for a number of years. What were you getting year in and year out? And if you do that, if you do apples to apples, Peyton is ahead of Brady regular season.
Right.
This is from what Mike Francesa said yesterday on First Take, formerly of Mike and the Mad Dog, with Chris Russo. He said Peyton was the greatest regular season quarterback. I agree. I'd rather have Brady, though, because the postseason means so much. And Joe Montana was the greatest Super Bowl quarterback. And certainly Montana 4-0 in the Super Bowl with 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. You can also argue that. But when you combine both, it's Brady. And I don't think Francesa was arguing against that. What do you think about that, Damian?
Yeah, I just think that for me it's hard to kind of compute where if you're going to make the argument that Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, but then in the same breath you're talking about Peyton was the best in regular season, Joe Montana was the best in Super Bowls, whatever. How can you that's not 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
Well, because you could say you're second or third in both categories, and the other guys aren't.
But Mick Wood, why did I tell Jay? And I've been telling Jay this. Tom Brady was in a different situation. He didn't have to do certain things in the regular season. But if he had to, Jay, he would do them.
And Big Will, my thing is that I value the regular season, and I get how you can say Peyton Manning was better. That's fine if that's the argument you want to take and make that point. But my thing is, the regular season gets you to a certain point, and the postseason is when things kick to a different gear. We all know that as athletes. Like, the three of us know that. It's a different gear. So even if you want to say Joe Montana, he was 4-0 in the Super Bowl. I'm like, okay, well, Tom was at 6 more Super Bowls than Joe Montana.
Yeah, listen, man, it's you playing 10 Super Bowls and you win 7. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see that again, man. Come on, it's just speaking those numbers, it's ridiculous because really the threshold is 4. Okay, Joe Montana 4, Terry Bradshaw 4. No one has really pushed through
doubled them.
Right, he's doubled them. Think about that.
And by the way, all of them, except for the one where he won in a blowout, they were all one-score games, but he won the majority of them.
And Big Wood and Key, I don't know if you guys say this in the football locker room, but we say it in the basketball locker room all the time. Like, regular season, he gonna do his thing.
Hey,
what regular season do? You know what I mean? He gonna do his thing. Postseason, let's see who that player is.
But you gotta get to the postseason. You gotta have a regular season to get to the postseason and win. When you won your 2 Super Bowls, Woody, do you remember what seed you guys were to start the playoffs? Did y'all have buys?
We did have buys.
And the reason y'all got those buys is because the guy named Tom Brady, along with D. Wood and the rest of the cast of characters, balled out in the regular season to go 13-3 or 14-2 or whatever that record was to have the number 1 seed. So obviously Tom Brady is balling in the regular season and doing that so they can get to the postseason. That's why the argument about Peyton Manning being the best regular season quarterback, that falls on deaf ears to me. Because you have to do something in the regular season to be able to advance to the postseason and get the buys.
Yeah, listen, I think you make a great argument. I will say this. I think in New England we were a more complete team than the Indianapolis. When you think of the Colts, who do you think? You never thought of the Colts like had great defense. You thought of them like it was Peyton Manning, their offense, outscoring people, and that's
one dude on
how
defense
they won.
who had a spin move who could get to the quarterback. That was a bad safety.
And I'm not, listen. The Colts they had some really good defensive players.
Dwight Freeney,
Robert Mathis, they had some guys over there, but primarily it was on the shoulders of Peyton Manning and him being, the quote unquote the sheriff and doing his thing offensively.
Damian Woody, ESPN NFL analyst, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Even if Mahomes played 20 years and did exactly what he's done so far, which is unthinkable, you can't host the AFC Championship game every single year, he would have to play 20 years as a starter if he won the Super Bowl this year, and he's not favored to pass Brady. To pass Brady with the Super Bowl, it ain't gonna happen. Damian Woody, ladies and gentlemen, championship or bust for Jason Tatum and the Celtics.
Y'all need to help that man out that chair.
Would this season be a
Get
failure
out.
You got it.
if Boston doesn't win at all? Anytime Boston doesn't win at all, I consider that as...
Those are unique situations. And second of all, better by how much? Like, if you did a blind resume with Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton, you'd be shocked.
No, they're very, 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 very similar. I just think that Sean's approach may be a little more, I don't know, he's different, okay? His approach is different, so, and he didn't get fired. So, you know how that goes right there? He didn't get fired. He left on his own terms.
Right.
And so when you get fired, there's a stigma that goes along with that, and now everybody assumes you are manager because you were fired. When, in all honesty, like Dan said, that's not really the case.
You know, but the thing with Peyton, and like this will be the biggest thing that I think you notice in Denver, is like the game day operation is going to be extremely like very obviously competent, right? Very like it'll be well run. The play calling, the game planning, just sort of the way things operate on game day and really throughout the week. And I think that's what you didn't see this year with Hackett, who was doing it for the first time and was, I mean, obviously I think